Hey there guys, welcome to the video. So this is my very first video. I'll be reacting to Bashar speaking about the Greys being mutated humans from the future. That is a very interesting topic. Me pretty much speaking about it and reacting to it allows you to also have a third perspective to it, and then we can engage with one another in the comments on what we think is going on and how we think that ties into our certain timeline right now, right? So let's just get into it. Hear what he says. This is a video from Divine Light Vibes. So let's just get into it and see how everything just goes.
In this system, you have arrived
I'm just
now
gonna
at this point,
pause that and take the volume a little bit higher. Right.
and in recent times, arrived band in this system.
Okay.
You have arrived now at this point, and in recent times, where the vibrational energy allowed you to be ripe, shall we say, to interconnect with what we are loosely calling the Gray Federation, which is represented by the banner on the lower right, in the three stripes of black, gray, and white. Now, as we have told the story, in general, the gray beings are a number of different things. They are an amalgamation, a federation of a number of different things. They're not really all lumped into one thing, although there are connections, which is why we are utilizing the term federation to represent the connections between the different factions of beings that you might recognize in general as grays, and all the different varieties in which they come. However, do understand that, as we have already laid out for you, the Greys are not really alien beings. Most of them, the ones that you are dealing with on your planet, are a race of mutated humans from a parallel Earth that destroyed itself. Once they had created a very high level of technology on that parallel version of Earth, much higher, much far beyond where your technology is now.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's kind of like we advance so further in, and then we create a time machine to go back in time to rectify certain things. Because he does say that from the future. Yes, he does say that they're from the future. So they pretty much go back in time. We are other versions of them. They have other versions of us. So you just go back in time and you try and rectify errors that you have. Because you're so technologically advanced either way.
But because they were so focused on the idea of technology and intellectuality, eventually they sacrificed the concepts of emotionality and looked upon this as an inferior state of being. They began to become very disconnected from nature, began to focus on these ideas in a variety of ways that allowed them to let their planet, in a sense, go to seed. They no longer really took care of the nature. They allowed themselves to strip mine, allowed themselves to deforest, allowed themselves to change the climate in such a way, all in the name of their technology, so that they ultimately looked up and realized that their planet was fast becoming uninhabitable to such a degree that even their technology could now no longer really do anything about it.
Like, one thing I realized, it's kind of like when you live out your mind, it's more so separation. It leads more to separation. But when you live out your hearts, it leads to unity. And the symbolic side of that is look at how the brain is, it's split into two. It's two parts. However, the heart is one. So I think we actually moving towards a place where there's more people who are thinking or living out their minds, because it also has to do with ego, reputation, competition, everything that has to do with duality. However, living out your hearts, it's all that has to do with unity. It's one, all is one, So it's kind of clear to see how they got to where they got to. Technologically, if you neglect everything else in nature, you see everything else as inferior, you're going to get hit very hard, long term or short term. Everything is unity. Everything needs to be unity. It's whole systems. It's not just this side and this side. No, no, no. It's this side and that side, not this or that.
And at this point, they had also taken themselves so far, altered themselves in such drastic ways in terms of their genetics, their technology, their biology, that they really were almost part human and part machine, and thus could no longer relate to the idea of nature in a variety of ways, but realized that what they had done was going to create a situation where their race would completely eventually die out. They no longer had the ability to reproduce. And so they realized that in order to perpetuate their species, they began experimenting with a number of things. First, because their environment was becoming less and less and less habitable, they moved themselves into underground cities. And in those underground cities, they experimented with their genetics and began to clone themselves over and over and over again, eventually, of course, realizing that this was a dead end. They, even with their technology, could not replicate the original human DNA. They knew they needed viable, vibrant, natural, original human DNA to introduce it back into their genetic structure if they were going to have any chance at all of perpetuating their culture. And so they...
So I think this is where they came back in time. Because what they did, they came back in time. They're like, oh no, alright. I mean, we're so technologically advanced. Bashar also mentions that everything happens all at once. So it's not really time travel, but just to make it make sense, it is from our point of view, because we look at time linearly, right? That might change in the future. However, at this point, this is what they done. They went back to the past, and then this is where the abductions come from. It makes sense, because, I mean, they say that if you believe that there are no such things as aliens, then why, when I speak of an alien, you have a certain picture, which is the gray? I mean, even the emoji is a gray. So, I mean, was that just an idea? How did everyone have the same idea of what an alien is? And if that's the case, that they really, really, really mutated humans, then they're not aliens. They're pretty much us from the future. So we just coming, it's us from the future going back in time to actually rectify all of this, But it's a place that has no emotion or feeling or everything is just intellect, technology, progression, and in that light. But I think we probably went about it the wrong way. I guess I could refer to it as we, because that's really us from the future.
Realized that the only way to extract that would be to use their technology to tunnel into parallel realities where they knew humans must still exist, such as yours, and find the DNA that they require to create a hybrid race, one civilization of which we are, to allow their culture to perpetuate itself. So this they did, and created many different hybrid civilizations, which we will get into again tomorrow of your time. Nevertheless, in expanding into parallel realities as these mutated humans you now call the Greys, they eventually created a variety of different versions of themselves and also encountered in those parallel realities different varieties and different versions of themselves, including one that was actually native to the star system you recognize as Zeta Reticuli.
Wait. Is this what the raptor is? Is this what the raptor is? Oh, just bear with me. So, the raptor speaks about a splitting, right? So, if there's that splitting going on, could that be like different timelines going into two? The timeline where humans will eventually become the Greys, and a new timeline, a new stream where now we can learn from all of that and pretty much be of a different vibration, do things differently. That could be how the raptor is. It's interesting.
By making, in a sense, a relationship with the beings there, they created something, they formed a relationship and an agreement with something that they desperately needed, which was a different kind of guidance on a different kind of level, beyond just intellectuality, on a level that could see into different dimensions, could really help them plan out the idea of how to create these hybrid civilizations, who could oversee such a vast project that would take eons of time to manifest. Once they encountered these beings in the Zeta Reticuli system, they formed and developed a relationship with them to allow them to become the overseers of all of this plan, all of this agenda. And in allowing those overseers to participate in that hybridization agenda that would perpetuate their species, in some ways, they actually started deferring to them and allowed them to really become the primary organizers of their civilization. These overseers are what many of you in the abduction phenomenology have come to recognize as the insect-like mantis beings that are very tall. They became part, in that sense, of the Grey Federation as the overseers. Now, upon recognizing that many of the parallel reality versions of Earth that the Greys had tunneled into were also going down similar vibrational paths.
Many of them. Wow. I wonder what makes people go down that path, That's taking humanity down that path. But he says many, not all. So there are parts that took a different turn. But he says many of them are going down this dark path. I don't think it seems dark at first, but once you get to a point where you can't even reproduce, you can't even continue the human species or race, then, that's a dark path.
The path they had taken that destroyed their world and prevented them from being able to reproduce, prevented them from having emotionality. They recognized that by creating these hybrid beings such as ourselves, they can also give back a gift to those parallel worlds by allowing these hybrid beings to stave off the same fate, the same experience that many of the parallel versions of Earth were also going down, so that they would not have to experience the same degree of limitation that the Greys experienced on their world.
That is a gift. That is a gift. That means that they didn't have... This is so trippy, man. That means that they didn't have open contact. That means that they didn't have open contact. Because if they did, they wouldn't go down that path. Or they probably had it at a later stage. Or they are the ones who were initiating open contact with other species. But however, they went down that path either way. Imagine with all the abundance in all the universe, I don't think that you could lack anything. I mean, there's probably gold in some planet with no one, well, in that sense, on a resource point of view. So them not being able to find any viable human DNA except for here with us, or anything that could replicate it in a sense, that is also something they could be grateful for. Then that is something they could be also grateful for. And I think it also makes sense that because they don't have like emotions, or they've ushered that out, I think that's why they don't really care when they have these abductions. They don't think that you would feel fear, because they don't know what it feels like anymore. They don't know what love feels like. They don't know what all these emotions feel like. So I think the abductions is just, oh well, we need this. We're gonna help you too, but we need this. So all these abduction stories, that's why I think people get terrified, But another human instinctual thing is people get terrified at things they don't know. So that's another thing. But I think they came down and abducted some people and extracted whatever they extracted from them without thinking of the consequences of how the people would feel. Now they're instilling fear. Now people think about aliens and have fear. Whenever people think about aliens landing, They have better technology than us, so they could easily make us slaves and whatever, you know. So I think that's how people think when they think about aliens, but they didn't think of that, because now they just need to perpetuate the human DNA.
And so, this is one of the reasons why we are sharing information with you this day of your time. And for the past 30 years, and in a variety of ways, to allow you to understand that you don't have to take the same negative path, that you can change your destiny, that you can awaken to your understanding of consciousness in such a way that you can create a reality for yourself that is quite different than the reality path that they took. Does all this make some sense to you?
Yes,
All right.
yes, it does.
This will be the history for now that we will share of the bottom row of the Enneagram. And as we, in the forthcoming transmissions this weekend of your time, include the other levels, we will also magnify and enhance what we have already said here as it relates to the idea of the Earth. Notice that in the center, the symbol, the vibrational...
Right, so he's done talking about that. Well, that's interesting. That is interesting, but I think that's what the raptor is. I think Jesus is the one who saw this, right? I think that's what the raptor is, guys. You know, if you think about it, it's a split. It's a split. You know, there's an idea Bashar speaks about with the splitting prism. I think that's what the raptor is. Because now there's a path where obviously people are gonna go towards living out the mind, and there's gonna be a path where everyone's living out the heart. These are two separate parts, you know. So I think that's what the raptor is, you know. It's a splitting. You go this way, I go this way. And I don't think it's just two paths. I think there's plenty. But to just sum it up, and another thing he also says that makes sense is like you in a class, you can see all the other parts, but as time goes on, the splitting gets bigger and bigger, but you can see the other side, and then soon enough you won't be able to see the other side of the path you took. And it makes so much sense. I really think that is the raptor. Wow, that's very interesting. But anyway, tell me what you guys think. Thank you for tuning in. Let's have a conversation in the comment section. I will comment and respond and share my point of view with some of you guys. I'd really love to hear some of your point of views. Thank you for watching the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Until next time, signing out. Peace and love.